All right, welcome everyone to today's Q&A. We are here with Cameron Cooper. We're going to talk about the Chia Cloud Wallet, which we just made generally available earlier this month. Welcome, Cameron. How are you doing today?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks.
So today I wanted to talk about the Chia Cloud Wallet, kind of what started this whole process of developing a cloud wallet, kind of where we're at and what the future looks like. So could you give us a little bit of history on why did we decide to develop a cloud wallet? What purpose does it serve, and and go from there.
Yeah, it's a really good question. In fact, there's a lot of history there. The decision to build the Cloud Wallet really came out of all the experience that we got developing the original Chia wallet. And in developing that, we learned a lot of things. And one of the things that we learned is that because of the way the CoinSet model works, you actually, every time you develop a new on-chain primitive, have to develop new wallet updates. And so as we started to look towards enterprise use of this thing, we realized that anytime we do something new on the blockchain, we were going to have to develop new software, deploy it to new sort of enterprise end users, and wanted to find a better way. Doing it as sort of a cloud delivery model made a lot of sense, but then it also introduced some complexity, particularly around keys and signing, because the original model had the keys baked into it and it was very easy to sign. But we obviously don't want to have access to the keys if we do a cloud model. So this is where we actually then introduced the idea of a separated signer. So where you have the iOS signer or even a passkey signer, where we at the cloud platform level don't have any access or visibility into the keys, but then have the ability to make a request to get it signed by the end user. So it actually turned out to be a really good model where we're able to do a lot of the kind of wallet level functionality of tracking the blockchain, constructing transactions, making that easier for end users, but then still keep the control and self-custody in the end user hands. So that's really kind of in a brief nutshell why we decided to build the cloud platform.
Gotcha. So it came out of kind of looking to the future and knowing that we want to develop more and more features, obviously, and that would require updates to the wallet and require everyone to update to that latest version in order to maintain parity. And this just kind of simplifies that path so that it's just continuously updating kind of in the background, and people just can use it, and it'll always be kind of the latest and greatest and maintain those features, right?
Yep.
Awesome. So that's kind of the impetus of why we decided to pursue it. Where are we at currently with this release, kind of general availability of this month? Where have we gotten to so far, and maybe a little bit of what's coming soon, or looking to the future of what we want to achieve?
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, the first thing we really wanted to do was get to parity with what the desktop wallet provides today. And so now that we're at general availability, we're pretty much there. There's a couple of things that the desktop wallet has, and we'll come back to those around like DIDs that we don't actually support. We can talk about why and what our plans are for that. But so right now we've got sort of basic custody support for XCH and CATs, NFT support, offer support. And we've got a bunch of things on the roadmap that are coming around there. Multi-sig obviously is a big exciting one, and then there's going to be a bunch of enterprise features, particularly around like tokenization, that are going to be useful. So yeah, I think like NFTs, and I mentioned DIDs is kind of an interesting upcoming example because we decided not to bring over DID support because the original intention with introducing DIDs was to help establish this kind of provenance layer with NFTs. And so we could be able to say, hey, this identity minted the NFTs, or this identity has owned the NFTs. And now that we have Vault, Vault is actually very similar to DID. It's a singleton that lives on chain. Vault actually is much better because it has an upgraded custody model where you can actually now do multi-sig and things like that. And so we've been asking ourselves, well, what actual benefit would we get out of continuing to do the old DID model versus just using what the Vault already natively provides? So right now, if you mint an NFT from a Vault, it's pretty clear that that NFT came from that vault. And so you actually don't have to use a DID to get that information about who minted that NFT. Also, if you own a NFT in a vault, then it's pretty clear which identity owns that NFT. And you don't have to go through the additional step that we used to have, which was associating the NFT with the DID. So we were able to actually eliminate some steps by getting rid of the DID there. But there's still some things that I think we're still missing. So obviously we have like pretty clear understanding of who minted it and who owns it, and we still need help from kind of the marketplaces, whether it's Mint Garden or Dexy, to be able to understand, coming from or owned by a vault as opposed to a DID. So hopefully we'll get support for that. But then one of the things we're still missing and we're working on right now is called what we call vault signed messages. So one of the things you could do with your original DID is you could sign a message with the key that owned that DID to kind of prove that you own that DID. And we don't have that concept yet available for vaults, a way for you to sign a message with your vault saying I own this vault. But it is something that we're building. It just works a little bit differently because a vault may not have a key behind it that you can sign with. It's particularly if you're using like a multi-sig. So we have a concept called vault signed messages, which is a similar type of thing when the vault can attest to saying, hey, I'm certifying that this message is something that I want to sign off on. So once we've got that, then you will actually be able to do very similar things. Go to like Mint Garden, for example, and say, here's my vault, and then therefore here are all my NFTs. So hopefully we find that vaults are a great replacement for DIDs, and we actually don't need to bring over the same sort of DID support that we had on the desktop wallet. Having said that, there will be some small amount of DID support no matter what. For example, within offers, if you're buying an NFT that was minted by a DID, we still want to be able to show that to you. And so even if we don't have the ability for you to custody or transfer or make new DIDs, we'll still want to be aware of them, and especially in the offer process. So yeah, I said a lot of things there, but hopefully that was useful.
No, I think it was. You may have answered this right at the end there. My question was going to be like, is there any concern about, because we have these legacy um, assets or NFTs that are associated with DIDs, and we have DIDs, existing in the network right now. Is there any concern for compatibility with those things working within the cloud wallet at all? And maybe you answered that right at the end there.
Yeah, it's a good question. Look, there's some things that if you had a DID that you minted some NFTs from, and then you want to then maybe transfer it to a vault and then continue to be able to mint from it, we don't have any planned support for that. That doesn't mean that it's impossible with vault technology. It just means that that particular capability isn't really a priority with the cloud platform, the cloud wallet, as we have it and we see it right now. However, I think this opens up an important point around the vault and the cloud wallet, which is just because you use the cloud wallet doesn't mean that the cloud wallet owns and controls your vault. Your vault lives on chain, and the cloud wallet is a front end to it. But there's no reason that you can't also use a separate wallet software with your vault. So, for example, if Sage develops vault support, then you should be able to use your vault with Sage as well. And maybe Sage wants to add DID support, and then you can continue to do similar things there. So I would say that right now we don't have any immediate support to have all of the same vault capabilities, or sorry, DID capabilities within the cloud wallet vault, but that's not to say that it can't be done elsewhere.
Yeah, I think we had a question from the community that asked about third-party support for vaults. So that definitely
Yeah,
is in the roadmap and something that we expect people to start adopting Vault as kind of a new standard as well in their third-party wallets.
yeah, we certainly love to see it. And so I can't speak for Brandon and Sage specifically, but I think it makes a lot of sense for Sage to support vaults, and I would definitely love to see it happen because I think it's actually really important for Cloud Wallet users to have some means of accessing and controlling their vault outside of the Cloud Wallet. I don't want the Cloud Wallet to be the way that they can access it.
Awesome. So one of the questions that we have, and this might bring up kind of the relationship between what we have, the Chia Cloud Wallet. We also have the Chia Signer. And I believe there's maybe some other elements. How are those related? Are they kind of is the Chia Signer essentially part of the Cloud Wallet, or are these separate things that are working together? And is there any other elements that maybe are part of that group?
Yeah, it's a good question. So they are two separate things, but they are the kind of main constituents of kind of what we call the cloud platform. But the iOS signer and soon to be Android signer, it's a standalone app that you can use outside of the cloud platform. Its sole sort of function is to create and possess a key, and then to be able to provide signatures as needed. And so, we built the Cloud Wallet to be able to work with that. But I think we also envision other wallets being able to work with that. I'd love to be able to see if you have a key in your iOS signer that you're using with the Cloud Wallet, maybe you can also integrate the iOS signer with Sage or another wallet, so that you can also use that wallet and generate signatures using that key that lives in the iOS signer. And so, yeah, hopefully have the Android signer then pretty soon. We're making great progress on it. But yeah, the signer is actually really kind of the key and kind of pivotal thing as a part of this whole sort of platform vision, because it still enables you to have self custody with this kind of centralized cloud wallet model. But also it provides a ton of security. And so not only like with using the secure enclave to protect the key, but also to be able to do better clear signing so that the wallet or the signer can actually give you very clear information about what you're signing. And then down the road, introduce things like air gap signer support. So we have a lot of ways that we really want to ratchet up security here.
Mhm. Now, the Chia signer is kind of the primary way to sign transactions through the cloud wallet. Is there a plan for supporting things outside of the Chia signer, like other ways to sign these transactions?
Yeah, so we have passkey support, so you can actually just go in and sign a transaction with a passkey. So that means you can use YubiKey or any other passkey implementation that your browser can support. Um, those would be the main ones right now. However, actually, you could, and this gets kind of get into the API discussion if we get into that. We do envision people being able to develop their own signers, especially around enterprise customers that have workflows where they want to be able to manage a signing process and not use the iOS signer because they want to do it more programmatically. We do want you to actually be able to build your own signer.
Okay, awesome. One of the other things that we launched this month through the Cloud Wallet is the BXCH program. One of the probably the most common question that we got from the community was, will that and when will it be available, the BXCH program be available for European purchasers? Is there
Yeah,
any
great
plan?
question.
Is there
I
any?
actually can't answer that. We don't have, it's not imminent. It's just because, the way that we have our banking set up is like we were able to do US right now. We're not working on international. Obviously, we would like to get there, but I just can't give you a timeline yet. But I suspect now that this is launched and live, we're about to go right back and figure out what it takes to launch European support. I just can't give any more detail yet.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
great. I mean, it was just the number one question, so I got to ask it. It's cool to see that there is interest and immediate interest from international community members to use it. So that it's interesting because historically it's been harder to acquire XCH in the US, which is partly the reason for this program, and easier for European. So interesting that they still desire this path as well.
Yeah.
Um, Continuing on the BXCH thing, we currently have some limits on how much someone can purchase. One of the questions that we have is everyone using the cloud wallet limited to $100 a day, or is there a group of investors that are allowed more? If so, what's the process? And I do believe that the limit has recently been increased, so that is not necessarily it was at one time limited to 100. It's been increased since then. It will
150.
probably increase, yeah,
Yeah.
150, I think right now. It'll probably be increased uh, further in the future as well. But I think that the core question is this limits for some people, not for others? And is there a process to kind of bridge that gap?
Yeah, so first I'll say like we would love the limit to be as high as possible. Right now we're just limited by our banking partners, so we are doing everything we can to keep pushing that limit up. And so yeah, it'll keep going up, but it's going to take time. Now, in terms of who gets what limit, It's actually the same limit across the board. There's no group of investors or anybody else that actually has access to buy more. I personally wish that I could buy more than I'm allowed to buy. I've been banging on the drum for a while, and so yeah, it's totally fair. We're not giving special privileges or access to anybody.
Yeah, yeah, and that'll put some minds at ease. I know everyone's always wondering, like, is there a certain class of people that can get more? But no, yeah, it is a across the board, and again, that limit has been increased already. It will increase in the future, um, and we're looking forward to that. Final question on this topic is: can users sell XCH to CNI?
Yeah, there's no support for that and no plans for it right now. It's kind of yeah, the problem we really wanted to solve was to provide kind of an on-ramp for people who needed some XCH to do something.
Yep.
I know it makes sense for people to have off-ramps, but I think there are other ways to do that too.
Yeah. Moving on, we have a few questions surrounding vaults. That is kind of the biggest new feature that Cloud Wallet introduces. Um, so one of the questions revolves around privacy, and some people have asked, what data does CNI store about the vault owners? Is there any personally identifiable information? Do we have to submit any type of information in order to sign up for the Cloud Wallet and get a vault? What kind of protections do we have there?
Yeah, great question. So in general, we know very little about the vault owners. We know their account information, which is basically the name that you've given us or the email that you've given us. You should take a look at our privacy policy if you want to know the details of it. And in fact, I think there's suggestions in there about how to increase your privacy if that's a concern for you. But aside from kind of your basic account information, we don't really know anything more than like what the blockchain knows. There's a little bit of information that we've got potentially around like what is the custody configuration of your vault that may not be known by the blockchain, but right now it's pretty much all known. But as we get into more sophisticated types of multi-sig, there may be sort of spend arrangements that haven't been revealed on chain, and it's kind of important for privacy to keep those separate. But that's really more of an enterprise concern. But for the most part, we don't really know more than what's available on the blockchain.
Okay. And what is the best way to get support for vaults? Like if anyone has an issue with their vault, considering that right now Cloud Wallet is the only solution that supports vaults. Hopefully in the future we'll have third-party support as well. But if someone has an issue with their vault, what's the best way to get support for that?
I mean, Discord is a good place to start. You can go if you don't get answers there, you can go on Twitter and blast somebody and probably get an answer there too. There may be better answers than that, but yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah. Discord is definitely the place to go. There is a support channel there. I know Brant is in there a lot, helping everyone all the time. I don't know how he has time for it, but um, so we have a question about developing decentralized applications to work with vaults. What is kind of the forecast for how a dApp would work with vaults, and is it different than the current structure?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so typically what a like a dApp would do to communicate with your wallet is use something like Wallet Connect. And we take a look at that to figure out whether or not we can support Wallet Connect with the Cloud Wallet. It just turns out that that model doesn't work when you've got a server side wallet like we've got. And so what we're doing is more of a direct integration with the dApps. And so we'll have an OAuth login model where you can go to an app like Dexy or Mint Garden and say log in with my Cloud Wallet, and then it would go directly through an API call to the Cloud Wallet and authorize into your account, and then be able to make API calls that way, as opposed to going through Wallet Connect. So we've been actively working on this capability. We've made a lot of progress. It's not launched yet, but I would say that we're getting close to it. But this is our plan.
What's exciting about that is there's always been a hurdle for kind of normal users who are not necessarily super deep in the blockchain ecosystem of using this kind of technology because there's just a lot of steps and a lot of things that you have to do and remember, and it's all very foreign.
Mhm.
This is a huge step towards making it feel just like a Web 2.0 experience, but with the kind of Web 3.0 infrastructure underneath, kind of hidden. And I think that's a really good step forward and really opens the doors to greater and wider adoption.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully easier to develop for. Do you know offhand, is it going to be easier for developers to integrate with the Cloud Wallet in vaults rather than kind of through other solutions like Wallet Connect?
Yeah, I think it'd be a little bit easier. Like the setup process is just a little bit different. You have to go kind of an OAuth redirect flow and get a token and then be able to make API calls to the Cloud Wallet there. But then once you've got that link established, it'll be pretty similar. It's like you can make a request to construct an offer and take an offer, that type of thing. It'll be different, but I don't know if it'd be significantly easier.
And that's pretty similar to like what they would normally do on a Web 2.0
That's
application,
right.
right? So they're probably very familiar with that flow anyway. So it's maybe easier just because it's familiar.
Yeah,
Uh,
conceptually, you don't have to learn anything new like Wallet Connect and how that works. So that, yeah, for sure,
right,
that would be.
right. Is there a speaking of the OAuth APIs, is there a list of endpoints available for the OAuth API?
There is. We haven't published it yet, but obviously when we release it, that'll be part of it.
Sounds good. So keep an eye out for that for whoever asked that question. Um, let's see. So talking more about developing, will using dApps that use the OAuth implementation be able to send push notifications through the Chia signer for transactions? Like how does that interaction work?
Yeah, good question. So ultimately, a lot of that signer process and workflow will be kind of abstracted away from the dApp. The dApp will say, what their intentions are, and what kind of transactions they want to do. But in terms of getting it signed, that's something that the cloud platform then takes off and takes over. And so if a user has logged in and they've got an iOS signer, then all the dApp has to do is say, do you want to take this offer? Do you want to do this transaction? If the cloud platform determines that a push notification needs to be sent to the user to get a signature, it handles all of that, and then ultimately we'll finish the process.
Okay.
So I think it should be a lot easier, or very, I guess, similar to what you get with Wallet Connect, where you don't really have to think about, how it gets signed by the wallet itself.
Gotcha. Okay. So it'll just prompt the user. It'll know something needs to be signed. It'll prompt the user to sign it either through the Chia signer or through a different signing method. And that will not be something that the developer has to worry about.
Yeah, because those signing workflows can actually in the future get really complicated, especially when you get into multi-sigs or something like that, where some of them are iOS, some of them are not. And so, like, we don't want the app to have to think about any of that and just say what kind of transaction they want to do, and then we'll take care of getting it signed.
Awesome. Speaking of multi-sig, this might lead into the next topic. There, we are launching we're launching the cloud wallet, and there's going to be a number of tiers, correct? There's a free tier, a paid tier. Can you give us a rundown of what those tiers currently are or will be, what kind of what that setup might look like, and maybe what features are available in the free tier as opposed to the paid tier?
So right now, multi-sig is slated to not be in the free tier, and so it'll be in a paid tier, both like the kind of paid pro or enterprise tier. That's kind of roughly what we're forecasting, but to be honest, like these things move, and so we may decide at some point that we want to push multi-sig down into free, but that's not kind of what we're anticipating right now.
And that's mostly because the focus is obviously the free tier is going to be for regular users who might be used to using our reference wallet or Sage or something like that, or a newcomer to blockchain and wanting just a simple solution. And the pro tier or the paid tier is more for enterprises and users that have more complex needs, which might need something like multi-sig for their asset management, correct?
Yeah, so we really do want there to be a free tier where it has most of the features that most people need for sort of general activities that we expect people to do. They want to be able to, create a vault and custody some assets on it and do some offer trades. But there's going to be a different tier of user that has higher level security concerns, and so maybe they want to increase it to multi-sig, or maybe they want to like have more advanced watchtower functionality. And this is where we think that there's going to be some people who want to pay more for those features. And then as we get into like enterprise, really the distinction between like what is enterprise versus the pro tier is probably when you get into multi-user organizations. So if you've got a multi-user organization, you want to have multiple users and like workflows around that. That's really when you get into enterprise.
Okay. We have a question that's kind of related to this, asking if there's any chance the free tier would get maybe one of two multi-sig so that we can have two devices end-to-end that work together for login signatures. And I think it's surrounding the idea of being able to recover from losing a key or whatever. And maybe this user is concerned about the recovery part of it, and maybe we can talk about what our recovery
Yeah.
steps are. But if there's anything, we can talk about the possibility of moving.
Yeah, I actually think that's something we definitely plan to see on the free tier is more flexibility around the recovery side. So right now there's a single recovery key. I do anticipate being able to see equivalent of kind of a multi-sig on the recovery side in the free tier. So you have multiple recovery options even in the free tier, because that's actually really important. You kind of like the recovery key that you expect to use, and maybe that's on an iOS signer, and then there's a backup recovery key that you've got on paper somewhere, and then maybe you've got a third party that you want to use, like as a delegated recovery agent. And so we definitely want that stuff to be in the free tier. But in terms of the keys that you use to authorize normal spends, like we probably expect that to just be a single key on the free tier right now.
Okay. Um, can you talk a little bit about the current um, the current implementation for recovering um, for, due to lost keys or lockouts or whatever?
Just the process and how it works and what our capabilities
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
So right now, we support recovery mainly by a BLS key. So when you create the vault, you're going to generate within your browser this new BLS key and have 24 words, and you're going to write that down. And then when you need to do a recovery, you provide those words. Your browser would generate a signature that could be used to do the recovery. We actually are working on also adding the ability to put that recovery key in the iOS signer. So then when you go into recovery, you actually just get a push notification to your iPhone, and then you approve it from there. This is really useful, especially like you lose your phone, you get a new phone, pulls in your recovery key from iCloud, and then you're able to immediately start signing a recovery spend. Um, so that's kind of the current state. Also, we're implementing recovery providers, and so you can specify a third party kind of vault who would sign off on a recovery. And so there's a whole workflow around that where you'd say, here's their vault ID, and then when you do a recovery, and on their Cloud Wallet side, they would see the request come through and they could approve and sign off on it from there. Those are kind of the main basic use cases I think we anticipate seeing right now. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we anticipate in the future around having sort of multiple signers on a recovery flow, maybe different durations and all kinds of different branches and that kind of decision tree that we can have. But yeah, those are the kind of the real basic ones that we're planning on right now.
Okay. Sounds good. Looking towards the future of Cloud Wallet, is there what does the obviously we just had this release. What does the future development for Cloud Wallet look like? Do we have any kind of maybe near-term features that we're working on that we can talk about, or maybe like far out features, the things that we would really like to see in the future, but are maybe further out? Is there anything that we can talk about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that there's a couple things that I'm super excited about. I mentioned clear signing on the iOS signer before. That's something that we're actively working on and we're trying to get out as quick as possible. So I'm very excited about that, and that's going to be kind of a long process because it's kind of the keystone to all of the security, which is to make sure that you're signing off on something with protected keys that you know what you're signing off on. So a clear signing on the iOS signer is something that I'm really excited about terms of the sort of cloud wallet itself, there's a bunch of stuff that we're working on. Obviously, I'm really excited for us to get the pro tier out and be able to get multi-sig in there. We're working on a bunch of sort of tokenization related things. I think there's workflows and sort of new types of tokens that are for things that we haven't necessarily announced yet, but that are kind of forthcoming with partners around. I think that obviously we want to see more and more tokens come on chain and then to create markets around those. And so there's a lot of work and features that we're developing around that too.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all of the questions that I have from the community. And I think we talked a lot about kind of how this all started and where it's going. So, unless you had anything else to say, thank you so much for joining me on this. And thank you for answering these questions. Really excited for where Chia Cloud Wallet is going to go, and looking
Mhm.
forward to the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.